Hello and welcome to another Get to Know. And today it's really great to meet Aaron Janik. Welcome, Aaron, to this Get to Know Denis Wick interview.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I'm really interested in finding out a little bit more about how this all came about, let's say. And so,
Sure.
um, could you explain a little bit about where you live now and if that's where you originally came from and why you're there?
Sure. So I'm originally from Massachusetts near Cape Cod. Uh, I grew up there, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and honestly had played music from an early age, but didn't necessarily expect to be doing it for a career when I was young. Just did it because I loved it, and we'll get more into that later. But as I decided that music was the right career path for me, I had my best friend at the time, a saxophone player named Deshaun Jones, was living is born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. And so I actually ended up moving after college. I ended up moving to Detroit, Michigan, which was an amazing decision. Musically, the musicians are incredible. What I was able to do was just the type of music I was able to make, the people I was able to make music with was incredible. And but unfortunately, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was like, man, I'm doing all these things that I want to do, but I'm really not making a lot of money. So I started thinking, okay, do I want to if I want to make some more money doing this, I got to move to one of the bigger hubs. So do I want to move to New York or do I want to move to LA? And there are other places I considered, maybe Nashville, maybe Atlanta, maybe New Orleans. But I decided on LA mostly over New York because I have this business called Horn FX that deals with electronics for horn players. So I carry around a 50-pound pedal board to all my gigs or a lot of my gigs. And I just couldn't imagine doing that in the middle of the winter on the subway in New York City. So that's what brought me to LA. Another one of the kind of considerations of moving out here was just my desire to be a part of as many different musical genres as possible. And I feel like LA is just the perfect place for that because you got all the pop, you got all the hip hop and R&B. There's still a massive jazz community, a massive big band community, jazz fusion community. So I've just been lucky to be able to be in a place that allows me to do all these different genres. And that's why I live here.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. And the other question really related to that is, have you always played the trumpet or did you start on something else? And why did you stick with that? What was it that attracted you to staying with that particular instrument?
So I started playing piano when I was about 6, and I hated it because I didn't understand why my index finger had to play a certain key when, all my other fingers were capable of playing that same key. And just my little 6-year-old self was like, I don't like this. There's too much regiment to this. There's too much hand independence. And so when I started looking for instruments I was 10 when I got to really pick an instrument, a band instrument. And the trumpet had the least amount of buttons. So I said, oh, it must be easy. And it also made fart noises. And, when I was 10, that was a really big consideration. So that's why I picked the trumpet to begin with. I think what kept me in it is a couple of things. Number one, my best friend growing up from junior high school into college was is an amazing drummer. His dad is a trumpet player who owns a music shop. His mom is a saxophone and clarinet player who was an elementary school music teacher, and his younger brother played guitar and was a great composer. So my second family growing up was a incredibly musical family. Uh, that really kept me in it during the years where I would say music is at its least cool, which is junior high school and high school. It gets way cooler after that, I promise you. So I partially it was because of that. But also as I got a little bit, I remember, eighth grade, have playing some stuff and just realizing that, oh, like finally a good sound is coming out. 4 years later, I feel like this sound is actually a good sound. And that was very motivating for me in sticking with it and moving forward with it. And I mean, I've become more and more and more addicted to music and to playing the trumpet as the years have gone on. So now it's like I take days off because I have to, not necessarily because I want to. Like
Yeah.
I would sit here and play long tones on the trumpet mostly all day if I could. So I think it gets more and more addicting, and it's harder and harder to kind of shift your brain away from a musical mentality the older you get. So that's what kept me in it.
That's fantastic. Really like that. And is there an event that you feel that improved you as a player? Something that led you to thinking, yeah, okay, that's helping me do X, Y, and Z, or Z, as I should say in the States.
There are a lot. There are a lot. I think one of the most kind of performance professional musician hardening experiences I've had was just my decision to move to Detroit because uh, when I got there and throughout the 4+ years that I lived there, I probably didn't look at a piece of sheet music the entire time, which was so different than my previous experience with music. From fourth grade until and all the way through college, I was always reading music. And I mean, I'm an improvisationalist. I always have been building that skill since I was young. But uh, in my opinion, if you start from the written tradition, then your ears take longer to catch up. Whereas if you start from the oral tradition, your eyes take longer to catch up. So I started from the written tradition and my ears took a long time to catch up. And living in Detroit and playing full shows, not knowing what's going to happen and just constantly guessing and trusting my ear is the thing and kind of the battleground that I think pushed my musicianship to the next level and allowed me to move to a large and more competitive city like LA and have some success. I think it might have been the wrong decision to move to a big city like this immediately upon graduating college, because although my sight reading was good and my, written tradition was good, my ears were not what I would consider to be the standard and what people are looking for. So I'm very appreciative for the time I spent in Detroit and kind of that battleground of, hey, no sheet music for the next several years. So learn it by ear. Let's go. And it made me, in some of the R&B and hip hop tours that I did throughout the time I was living there and gospel tours, we were memorizing full shows, full hour plus long shows with complicated horn parts and all these things. And without that battleground, I don't think I would be where I am today. So I'll go with that.
Excellent. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much. And the products that you use, so whether we talk instrument, mouthpiece, mutes, that sort of thing, how do they affect how you continue to advance and grow as a player?
So let's start with the mouthpieces. So I've been playing Bach trumpets my whole life, and so when I first got my first Bach, I got a Bach mouthpiece, and as I switched from a 7C to a 5C to a 3C, and then as I got older, and as once I was past college and I started, I was really doing the trumpet professionally. I started thinking, man, like my sound is a little bit it's a little bright for my taste. I would like to be a little bit warmer and darker. And at least for me, I think the mouthpiece is the most important part of that equation, more important than the horn itself. So I knew I wanted a gold-plated mouthpiece, and I went to NAMM and just fell in love with the Denis Wick people, and went to the factory in Chicago for a full day and sat there and played all the mouthpieces and decided on this American Classic 3C here, which is very similar to in shape and kind of feel to the Bach, but the gold plating was so different for me. I didn't realize how different it would be, and so it took a little bit of commitment right off the bat to say, hey, I like the sound that's coming out now. I like what the gold has done and the feel of I like the feel of the mouthpiece on my face, and I like the colors that it's bringing, but I got to get used to it. And I think just as a kind of uh, and something to say to all mouthpiece triers out there. I don't think there's very many mouthpieces that you would try and it's just going to be the perfect mouthpiece the first time you try it. I think you have to listen for sound quality, overtones, EQ, all those kind of things when you're going through it. And finding the sound that's right for you, you're going to be able to kind of adjust the lips for the most part, so long as you're not changing sizes drastically to make that work for you. So over the course of the first maybe 6 months of playing this new Denis Wick American Classic 3C, I got more and more and more comfortable with it. And now it's just, I don't even think about ever trying any other kind of mouthpiece, honestly. And around that same time, I got the 3BFL, which has been, I mean, that thing is like warm and buttery. That's an amazing mouthpiece. So I think it's really, it's made me want to play my flugelhorn a lot more. Especially I record a lot of pop tracks and R&B tracks and stacked flugelhorn parts. So it's made it a lot more fun for me just having a mouthpiece that I think gives me the sound I want. So and for everybody out there that's listening, any sort of new mouthpiece, just give it the time. If you like the sound, give it the time, because it really will work out for you. As far as mutes, I use the Denis Wick cup mute and I use the Denis Wick straight mute. And man, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the gold straight mute that they have, but I get comments on this thing all the time. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing, you know? And it's been, although I'm not the type of player that uses a ton of mutes on a day-to-day basis, especially a straight mute, I do play in big bands all the time, and that cup mute is probably the mute that I use the most of all the mutes. So I've come to love it. I love that it's kind of adjustable, because it kind of double functions as a practice mute when I'm out on the road. Sometimes I just put it all the way up flush with the bell, and it takes away enough of the tone that it's not so abrasive when I'm warming up around all my peers. So yeah, that cup mute has been an amazing tool for me as well.
And you mentioned your peers. That very nicely brings me on to the last question, which is, who inspired you more? Was it your peers? Was it teachers? Was it YouTube? Was it recordings that you've listened to?
Wow, that's tough. I mean, if I have to choose between peers and teachers, I'm definitely going to choose peers. And that's not to say that I didn't have great teachers. I had some amazing teachers along the way, but they're not the ones that are in the practice rooms or in the rehearsals rooms with you on a day-to-day basis. They're not the ones that are writing the new tunes that are stretching your ear and kind of stimulating your mind. So at least for me, I think I was fortunate to go to Oberlin Conservatory, and I feel like my musician friends there, my peers there, inspired me so much. They were so insanely talented at that time, and are, I mean, obviously even better now, but they were some of the best musicians I had heard in person in my life at that time, and they were all the same age as me. So that was incredibly inspiring. And even especially to this day, now that I'm out of school and I don't really have as many set teachers as I used to have, I'm constantly inspired by my peers. And yeah, pretty much, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I say this all the time. I don't play music for the crowd. I don't play music for myself. I play music for my band, right? I play for my peers and my band. And what's most important to me is that I'm making them sound and look the best that they possibly can. And so at least that kind of mentality has always been there for me. And because I respect my peers so much and appreciate them for being available and being there and giving their gift, that I would definitely say peers.
That's fabulous. Thank you very, very much for your time today, Aaron. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.